What's going on, guys? Sinusan here, and I'm back bringing you guys a review for Space Dandy Season 2 Episode 1 entitled I Can't Be the Only One, baby. Now this episode is basically the season premiere for Season 2 of Space Dandy, and I thought that this was a solid episode. Now this episode really demonstrates why this show could be a classic. Now, one of the things that sort of threw me for a loop when this show first came out was the fact that it does not feel like a anime show. Like, it doesn't feel like a Japanese made show. It actually has a Western feel to it, and this could probably be because Toonami or Adult Swim probably had like a hand in creating it. I know they did fund it. I don't know if they had like any sort of like creative control over it. But this show does have a Western feel in the fact that, you know, every episode is a self-contained. It has a self-contained plot, basically, just like our American cartoons. Space Dandy has always been that show that just has a self-contained plot. Like, it was evident after the first or second episode that the events that happened on last episode, that doesn't mean anything. The next episode, we're doing something new, and like that's the thing about American cartoons. It's always been like that. There aren't really too many cartoons that have a consistent storyline, and even the pop culture references and some of the things that have been shown throughout season 1 clearly demonstrates that, you know, there's a Western feel to it, and that there's a Western influence into it, and that maybe Adult Swim and again just America in general has a influence in the show. I mean, this episode in particular, there's a space dandy. There's a space dandy in this episode that pretty much acts like Micheal Jackson. There's a space dandy in this episode that basically has his mannerisms and screams like him and does all the things that you would expect Micheal Jackson to do. Now in this episode, it's all about Space Dandy and the crew going through these different dimensions and finding different versions of themselves. Now the episode, the whole first few scenes of the episode was all about them. They go to the alien register, and the lady tells them that, you know what, you guys suck. They bring her a freaking cow, and she's like, you guys are the worst alien hunters ever. You guys need to think about a career change. They go back to the Aloha Oi, and then they're all depressed and stuff, and suddenly one of them notices, you know, QT and Micheal. They notice that, you know, Dandy's hair, there's like a string out of place, and so he pulls on that string, and then they are transported to a different dimension. And so that is the premise of this episode, is basically that they jump to different dimensions where they meet different versions of themselves. They look nowhere like them. Like they look nothing like them. They don't, like, these versions of them, these other versions of them look nothing like them. And I gotta say, one of the things that I do like about this episode, what I do like about the characters in this episode, is that, you know, the character design is unique. I mean, each one of the space dandies and each one of the QTs and the Micheals, they all are different in you know, each different dimension, and even the worlds themselves are different. And I gotta say, there were a lot of references to other anime in this show, or in this episode. There was a reference to Naruto. There was a QT that would yell substitution jutsu. He yelled substitution jutsu, and then he yelled transformation jutsu, and he would like change his form and stuff. So that was a reference to Naruto, and I think there was a reference to Dragon Ball Z there, because there was like a guy with like it looks like a scouter, and I think there might have been even a reference to Cowboy Bebop in there somewhere. But I know there were a lot of references to other anime in this episode, which was cool. I know the show pays homage to anime a lot. I know it's probably done in a few other episodes too, but this episode is sort of like, it was sort of right in front of your face. And basically the whole thing behind this episode, the whole conflict in this episode was basically, how are we going to fix how are we gonna fix all these problems that are happening? Because by like the middle of the episode, there's a problem by the crew. Basically, they keep pulling on these strings and opening up different dimensions and going through different dimensions, and then by the time they're done pulling all these strings and going through all these different dimensions and meeting all these different versions of themselves, all of these different versions of themselves end up going back to their dimension. And there's this major problem where all these weird things are happening. You know, nothing is as it usually was in the world of Space Dandy, and so they had to fix it by the end. And I gotta say, there were a lot of there were a lot of funny moments in this episode, a lot of things that sort of made me chuckle. The Micheal Jackson thing in particular just gave me like flashbacks of like the old South Park episodes where they're making fun of Micheal Jackson and everything. So that sort of made me laugh. Again, just certain things about this episode just clicked. And I gotta say that yeah, like Space Dandy is pretty much a solid cartoon. I think this is probably gonna be a classic, and the reason why I say that is because it basically has an American feel to it, and it's basically one of those just chill shows. Like, it's a real chill show. It's not serious. It's just something that's just wacky and weird, and there's a new adventure every week. At first I did not like it. At first, you know, I stopped paying attention to the show. I stopped watching it the first 2 weeks, but I ended up catching back up on it. I might do another review for this entire season. You know, I might do a few reviews depending on how you guys feel about it. But overall, like I said, this episode was pretty good. The animation for the show has always been good. Like I said, I think Toonami or Adult Swim helped fund this show. And the animation, I'm trying to think of the name of the studio that does it. I think it might be Studio Bones or something. But they've always, whatever the name of the studio is, I know they've always done a great job when it comes to animation. The voice acting, I always love QT's voice. I love the little voice effect that they do on QT. And since there was like different versions of QT, and there was like a version of QT in this episode that thought that he was a robot, but he's like a human inside of like a pink suit. Even his little voice effect that they did for him was kind of cool. And like I said, different character designs for this episode was great. Overall, I gotta say, I love this show. It took a while for me to sort of adjust to it, seeing as though it's not what we're like usually used to. But I do love this episode. There are a lot of things about this show that I don't like, but overall this episode was solid. I mean, you know, it was a solid episode. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys next time. If you guys want me to actually do more Space Dandy reviews, then just tell me, and I'll try to do this whole season if you guys want me to, or at least I'll do maybe a couple episodes, or maybe just a few episodes here or there. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys next time. This has been Senju-san. Peace. I'm out of here.